Welcome to another episode of What God Can Do. Today I have with me again Bishop Michael Reid, who is the founder of What God Can Do Ministries and the Bishop of the Global Gospel Fellowship. I also have with me Dr. Ruth Reid, the co-founder of What God Can Do Ministries. In the next segment, we're going to have with us Apostle T.B. Williams from the Christ Faith Tabernacle, who's going to discuss with us the ministry of apostles and prophets and church leadership. Well, we're going to begin that discussion right now with Bishop Michael Reid. Bishop, start us off.
Well, what happened was in the early 60s and 70s, slightly before your time, they had the heavy shepherding discipleship movement, based all on a lie, because it was based on the fact that Moses came out and his father-in-law came out of Egypt, and his father-in-law turned up and gave him some very bad advice about rulers of hundreds, thousands, tens, and appointed outside of God's command leaders. And of course, a lot of the evangelicals still do that idiocy. But what actually is the truth is that was he was a priest of the Midianites, and it was totally anti-God. Now, God later on put the spirit of Moses upon 70. That was God's choice years later, when God said it's too heavy for you. But at the time that his father-in-law gave him the advice, and people follow that stupid advice, in churches today, I've heard people say so, Jethro's principle, and they follow that advice. But the fact is that it's totally wrong. The only anointed people are God's anointed people, not appointing by age or by experience someone to the ministry. You've got to be called of God. Now, they ended up worshipping the golden calf after that, but naturally. But when God appointed the 70, he was very specific. And the Lord is always specific as to who is called. And I'd like to read something which might interest you, because I read it to one of these idiot apostles. I call him an idiot because God didn't call him an apostle, he called himself one. Now, anyone can take a name. They put on their business card in their briefcase, which is really where their church is, a list of names. Apostle, co-founder, international director of a supersonic, cherubim, seraphim, charismatic, holiness, redemptive church, etc. And then they go out into the world and con people out of their money. That is not a call of God. And we have to be very specific. And it's just interesting. This little book I'm reading from was only written in 1736.
Looks like a very old book.
It is. It was by Robert Barclay. And it says this: who then is to be called a minister? To wit, what maketh or how cometh a man to be a minister, pastor, or teacher, or apostle in the church of Jesus Christ? We answer, by the inward power and virtue of the Spirit of God. For as saith our proposition, having received the true knowledge of things spiritual by the Spirit of God, without which they cannot be known, and being by the same in measure purified and sanctified, he comes thereby to be called and moved to minister to others, being able to speak from a living experience of what he himself is a witness, and therefore, knowing the terror of the Lord, he is fit to persuade men. That's 2 Corinthians 5:11. And his words and ministry, proceeding from the inward power and virtue, reach to the heart of his hearers, and make them approve of him, and be subject unto him. Our adversaries are forced to confess that this were indeed desirable and best, but this they will not have as an absolute necessity. In other words, people today have gone away from what is called the necessity of apostleship. I was in a meeting in Grenoble in France, of these so-called apostles, you know, who had a horizontal apostle over them. I hope it wasn't through drink. he was horizontal, but he was portraying apostolic call, and I pointed out to them what the Bible taught, that you have to have the signs of apostle, miracle power, and creative miracles, as Paul said in Acts of the Apostles, which actually I don't think they've read yet. But they were going on and on about that. And in the end, when I defined what a true apostle was, they said, well, we're apostles in embryo, which is about where they've stayed.
Yeah.
So we want to go on and talk. I'm glad the apostle's going to be with us, because we're going to talk about what's happening in the church, what a true apostolic ministry is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm enjoying these discussions myself, because over the years I've had some experiences with people, come across strange things, and hearing you has really made it clear, and I'm sure it's doing the same thing for a lot of the viewers.
Yeah.
Well, please do join us in the next segment, where we're going to have with us Apostle Alfred Williams from Christ Faith Tabernacle, and we're going to continue this very interesting subject. So don't go away. Join us in a minute.